Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my review of Sonic GT. This is a fan game well praised within the community, but even so, I feel like it hasn't given enough recognition by fans. What this team has managed to put together should be experienced by as many people as possible, and to demonstrate that sense of community, I've invited my fellow Sonic content creator Eldarin to help me out.
Hey Nick, thanks so much for having me on and talking about one of my favorite Sonic fan games, Sonic GT.
It was my pleasure. And if you're new here, hi, my name's Nicholas, but it's Nick for short, and here on YouTube I analyze the narrative and game design of the Sonic the Hedgehog series. So ladies and gentlemen, let's get this started. This is why I believe Sonic GT should be the future of the franchise. The story of Sonic GT is nothing special, but to be frank, that clearly wasn't the priority. I do enjoy Eggman's brand new plan to harness the main character's energy instead of little woodland creatures, but we never really see the difference in power during gameplay or in the story. That being said, this new plan was the Mad Doctor's motivation to kidnap Ray the Flying Squirrel. This leads Sonic, Tails, and Mighty the Armadillo going on a rescue mission across 4 zones to rescue Ray and stop Eggman. Very simple, but then again it didn't feel like it was aiming to be super hyper ambitious, but the cutscenes and voice acting do show they still went above and beyond for presentation. The visual style is the standard visual novel look, if I had to put it some way, which works fine enough, and I thought the voice acting was again pretty good. I don't find the voices stellar or anything, but I never cringed either, which I feel is harder to accomplish than you might think when it comes to fan projects. So let's head straight into the gameplay.
So, I've been someone who's grown tired of boost after colors, and seeing GT's approach to this adventure almost boost blend really is something that makes me happy. My biggest problem with a lot of the more modern games is how the crux of the Genesis games, which would end up being translated to the adventure games in terms of built-up momentum, and in turn speed, resulting in a faster time to the goal, accessing new areas and levels, and the like, would be lost for more set pieces and instant speed just to go fast, and Twitch time reactions. While I certainly wouldn't call this a bad thing by any means, as I absolutely adore Unleashed in Colors, it's just a completely different gameplay style. GT is able to blend that momentum buildup with the super fast pace and instant speed of the boost games by, well, giving you that boost when reaching top speeds, and it seamlessly blends, which the level design accommodates even more so, encouraging exploration and to make your own crazy skips from that momentum buildup, which is at the heart of what Sonic has been since, well, the Genesis games. I just absolutely adore how open and expansive these stages are, putting the toolkit in the player's hands, much like say Sonic Adventure and the Genesis games, to make your own shortcuts while also providing enough direction to keep you going on the path to the goal. It's an absolute blast to play. Generally speaking, of course, the characters all control very well too, with the turning and momentum being very tight even at high speeds, much like say that of Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Colors, making the characters all incredibly fun to control and play with. The whole cast is also incredibly fluid to play as, both in the air and on the ground, and really gives you this adrenaline rush flying through the air and chaining homing attacks, or using the drop dash as Sonic for example. That being said, each character generally offers some unique moves, and their stats like acceleration, top speed, rolling influence, etc. are changed a bit, always offering a fresh take on each level.
So as far as Sonic's moves, he has the classic spin dash and roll maneuvers like everyone else. Like the classic titles, Sonic's moveset is the baseline that all the other characters build off of. So it may be basic, it's true, but with the level design present in the game, the bounce can be an extremely useful tool to gain momentum and achieve some serious height. But Sonic is definitely one of the most basic characters in the game. On the other end of the spectrum, we have Ray, making his first fully fledged playable appearance in a 3D game, and this was easily one of my favorite playstyles. One thing about all the characters is that achieving height with well-used momentum is always a treat, but sustaining it can require serious knowledge of the level terrain in advance. But with Ray, it's a lot more satisfying to get airborne in the first place, as you can use his ability to glide to get across large chunks of level in a split second. Although I did wish it acted more like the Batman Arkham gliding, wherever you could dip and then use the air's momentum to get higher, but unfortunately that isn't so, and Mighty only has one glide, and once you lose speed, you basically have to get back on the ground.
Mighty has a really fun playstyle, essentially translating and adding onto his Mania playstyle, but now in 3D of course, which works really well with him retaining his bound jump from Mania, and now being blended with the drop dash, offering a quote-unquote bounce dash, letting the player dive towards the ground and then launching forward in a burst of speed. He also can't be damaged while rolling or jumping too, which is pretty awesome. Another character with a super fun playstyle is the man himself, the ultimate life form, Shadow, who has a very high acceleration and slope influence, and has new additions to his Chaos abilities, those being Chaos Kick, which lets him kick an enemy when locking onto them, probably referencing those bits in the Shadow the Hedgehog intro, or Shadow also has Chaos Control, building off of his Shadow the Hedgehog interpretation, where he can slow down time, becoming invincible, and delivering a devastating blow to enemies. Both are an absolute blast to use.
Now, with all these characters having such a huge range of motion, how can a single level possibly contain them? Well, as I'm sure the footage has already shown, the level design in this game is equally as ambitious on scale as the control is. The thing that people tend to not realize is that most open world games have humanoid characters as the lead. Batman and Spider-Man, although heightened with gadgets and superpowers, are still restricted by being humans in a realistic city. This means everything is much easier to design for, since the character can't simply zoom across the map and collect everything too quickly. This is why both Superman and The Flash, for instance, have never had a good open world game. The level of expertise in world design and character control will require both manpower and hardware capabilities intense enough to portray the characters and the world in real time. Many people often point to the likes of Sonic Utopia or Green Hill Paradise Act 2 as the peak of Sonic fan game design, but to be frank, I've never been a huge fan of those titles. As proof of concepts, I do think that they're fascinating and worth a play, but I think that Green Hill Paradise is far too rigid in its world construction, and Utopia has way too many large open plains that don't require much engagement from the player. But the main issue is both lack meaningful things for the player to do considering the overwhelming amount of speed and mobility Sonic has as a character. And thematically speaking, a character like Sonic requires a large variety of landscapes to run through, as limiting him to one open world isn't fitting for the character in the slightest. The key to making an open world game is to make sure that every nook and cranny has something to do. Whether it be fighting enemies, a puzzle, or a collectible, it doesn't matter as long as the objectives are properly spaced out and varied so it always feels like there's something to do around every corner. But Sonic cannot accomplish this due to his gameplay formula. He was built for speed and getting through levels as fast as possible. But bringing this back to GT, I think this is a perfect way to compromise on the awesome conceptual idea that is a Sonic open world game while also keeping satisfying game design. Sonic GT's level design is essentially taking the SA1 format and expanding it tenfold. Dare I say, this game is the closest 3D Sonic has ever come to replicating Sonic 3 and Knuckles' level design. Looking at the levels from a side angle, the distinction between high and low paths are very visible, but in-game, clever use of terrain morphing and object placement merges it all together seamlessly. The levels are massive in their construction, filled with multiple pathways up and down and all around. The clever use of ramps to consistently elevate and bring down the player to keep the sensation of speed high and rewarding the feeling of exploration is constant and brilliant. But the game never allows the player to get lost. There was always a clear path marked on the ground, as well as rings, springs, and grind rails consistently pointing the player in the right direction to go. The level design is simply a masterclass in both open world game design as well as linear levels, and combining them into one, it's simply amazing. This right here is the perfect gameplay formula for Sonic to take on going forward. It is the perfect way to combine the more exploration-based Sonic Adventure style, as well as still supplying the high-speed thrills that the boost provided. Graphically speaking, this game is absolutely gorgeous. It brings back several different zones from previous titles, such as Seaside Hill, Studiopolis, Pyramid Cave, and Hilltop Zone from Sonic 2 of all stages. The way that this game takes those old aesthetics and then modernizes them by providing lush landscapes as well as plentiful set pieces throughout the entire level, making them feel brand new and unique. It's frankly amazing.
Speaking of the stages, I really gotta give GT some credit for putting Hilltop, which isn't talked about nearly as much as it should be, out of the hat and turning it into a fully 3D stage. It's just so freaking cool. This stage is incredibly expansive with so many routes in and outside of the mountains, grinding on minecart rails, or avoiding pits of lava. I just also really love how small you feel on this stage compared to your surroundings, as you have all these giant mountains and stuff around you. It's really cool.
One of my favorite aspects of the art direction is how it takes those stylized looks from Sonic Heroes, but then adds more adventure to it. It adds more realistic textures, more realistic lighting. It makes everything blend together so seamlessly that it all feels more natural than cartoony. And speaking of lighting, it has to be one of my favorite aspects of the presentation of this game. Whether it be Hilltop Zone's bright sunny aesthetic, or Studiopolis' sunset aesthetic, the lighting works so well for these levels. They work great for atmosphere, and yet they never manage to compromise and weaken the player's visibility. It's just great on all fronts.
I know this is incredibly small, but I just love the use of the fire here also, as it really gives that warm glow throughout the stage that contrasts really well with the night sky and lights of the rails and badniks overall.
Lastly, we have the boss encounters, and unfortunately, I think these are an extremely weak aspect of the overall product. The boss fights can be really engaging in the case of Hilltop Zone's mole fight, but they can just as easily drag on and make the whole encounter feel repetitive and boring. Take the final battle, for instance. It's definitely my least favorite fight in the entire game. At least the Hilltop Zone fight, you were constantly moving, but in this, you're restricted to a singular area, which isn't inherently a bad thing, but it's the weak strategy that the boss provides. All Eggman does is shoot at you the entire time, and yes, the floor does drop after each round, but that doesn't really do much considering you have more than enough room to run around, as well as the walls providing shields, which does make it more fun to go grab those, but it doesn't really enhance the boss fight itself. The OST of this game is honestly something I really didn't think that I'd like that much, but then I went and listened to it on my own time separated from the game, and I really understand what they were going for here, I think. An important aspect of Sonic level music is the fact that it pumps you up. It makes you want to run through these levels as fast as possible, and this music does that really well, but at the same time, it ups the ante, making it feel bigger, broader, more explorative. It strikes a great balance between keeping you chill and explorative and open-minded, but yet you still want to move fast, you still want to roll, you still want to get the top speed that you possibly can and race through these levels. It's just a great auditory way to make the player further immersed into this world.
For some reason, a lot of Sonic games just go off with their extra content, and Sonic GT is no exception to that rule. That being said, you may wonder to yourself, how do I access this extra content? And with that, I present to you the radar system back from Sonic Adventure 2, baby. For this, it's in here for the Chaos Emeralds, and where you need to find the emerald off a hot and cold like blinking radar that changes color depending on how far you are away or close to an emerald. I just also really appreciate the devs made the emeralds collected across all characters, so if I pick up one as Sonic, for example, it'll stay collected if I play as Mighty. This in turn encourages the player to actually, play as the other characters, as the emerald hiding spots may be a lot easier to reach with, say, Shadow, compared to Ray, for example. Speaking of those sick Chaos Emeralds, GT even has unlockable hidden characters, which is freaking awesome!
Super Sonic, for instance, once collected all the Chaos Emeralds, he's basically just an overpowered Sonic. But even so, Super Sonic is not the best character in the game, surprisingly enough. That honor goes to Classic Sonic.
Classic Sonic and my boy, Metal Sonic. Classic and Metal are both unlocked from collecting 4 items in their respective stages, so Hilltop and Hidden Base. It really just shows how much love went into this fan game that the developers added these extra characters as fun little secrets. I absolutely adore this kind of stuff and love being rewarded for exploring. That being said, we gotta talk about how Classic and Metal control, right? Classic controls similarly to modern Sonic, other than the fact that he can reach top speeds faster, jump higher, but also has a smaller homing attack range and can perform other actions while in the air. On the other hand, Metal can do this awesome special move called the Chaos Boost that propels him forward like a missile, barreling through enemies and attracting rings. It's kind of like a boost almost. The caveat to this though is that he stays in the Chaos Boost form, much like traditional Supersonic gameplay, till it drains your rings, so you always need to keep an eye on your ring count. They're both incredibly fun to play as and unlock, and I just really appreciate the devs taking the extra time to place rewards like this in the game. It's just always something awesome to see. So yeah, Sonic GT is an awesome game and you need to play that if you haven't yet.
Overall, I have 2 things to say. The first is, again, I just want to thank Eldarin for being here. He is such a fantastic collaborator. It was an honor to have you on the channel again. And secondly, I think that Sonic GT should be a template for Sonic in the future. Although not perfect, and with some more fine-tuning, levels could become even greater, and the overall package could be a truly next-gen experience with Sega's full power behind it, that doesn't really matter whenever you consider that this excellent 3D Sonic fan game was made by fans. And that is truly an inspiration. And Sega needs to do just that and take inspiration from this game, because Sonic GT has easily proven itself worthy of being the template for the future of the Sonic franchise.